Welcome to the Throne podcast. This is Dan Santana. We are so glad you're here joining us today on this episode. Before we jump into it, we released our final product of the year, final piece of merch of To The Throne. It's been a great year. We're going back to the basics, back to the classic banner tee. It's a blue banner tee. Check it out on tothethrone.co. An amazing shirt. We've had a great year releasing some merch, and there's more to come in 2022. Now, today we have a special episode. Normally, Dakota would be here with me, but we had the great privilege to interview somebody who is in our community. We've recently met, and he's an amazing person. So let's throw it right now to this interview with Dakota and JoeAngel Sanchez.
We have a special guest who has been a good friend of mine for just a few weeks now. It's been very recent, but he is a artist / tour manager here based in Nashville. He's worked with artists like Hillsong, Lecrae, and Mineo, Kari Jobe, and a number of others. But so grateful to have him on the podcast. We have JoeAngel Sanchez. Welcome, dude. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Dude, I'm flattered.
It's so good to have you. It's an honor. It's an honor for me because we've known each other for what, 2 months now?
Yeah,
Barely. Not even.
Yeah,
feels like a lifetime.
We connected over gummy bears.
It's true. We've got some sitting on the counter over here.
Yeah, thank you, by the way.
But yeah, dude, it's so great to have you on. Thanks for being on. And people may know you, may not know you, and you know like 1 billion people. It feels like everywhere we go, you're like, oh, I know this person. Let me go say hi to this person over here, which is crazy and something I've noticed. But it's like, how do you know so many people? It doesn't make sense to me sometimes.
It doesn't make sense to me either. And I try to play it off when somebody comes up to me and like talks and they walk away, and sometimes like, I don't remember who that person is.
you just play it off like you remember them.
Yeah. But no, a lot of people I do remember, and yeah, I think that I love people in general. So
you do.
The more I get to know, the more gifts.
It's true. It's something I want to highlight a little bit because I feel like it's a special gift you have. It was like connecting with people, and but to sort of kick things off, I've gotten to know you a little bit, but I want to get to know you a little bit more. And for the other people listening,
okay,
give us a little bit of a background on how you got into touring, managing, and then where you are now. Like, where did it all start?
I mean, I think what I'm doing, well, I know that the stuff that I'm doing now, it was basically what I wanted to do in life. I think from a little kid, I would play with little cars and things like that. And when my mom would buy me one of them, I'd go buy buses and trucks and things like that, acting like I was already
that's crazy,
traveling in the buses and everything like that. So doing what I'm doing was something I've always wanted to do.
Wow.
So I just kind of stayed on that path. It was like, how do I get there? Because none of my family was in music business or anything like that. And grew up going to a youth event, and something that the speaker that really pointed out was like, oh, this event, which was like a massive event, 20,000 people or whatever, said, this is put on by people your age, like right out of high school. So I was like, I need to do that. And so I actually applied to go to this internship, did this internship, and kind of knew what I wanted, even going in, and was part of the team that traveled and put on this event. I was an intern with them, and basically just started going to, I tried out to be an actor and dancer. I grew up doing that stuff, but it's not that I wanted to pursue that, in my career. But the only reason why I did that was because those actors and dancers, all they had to do was just know their lines and their moves. And the rest of the time, I was in the production office at the soundboard, learning the creativity about how things were done. Yeah. Because again, I had a goal in mind. And after a year of being an intern with them traveling, I was hired as their tour manager, their advisor and stuff. And so being there on site, I got to know a lot of guest artists that came through. And it was through that my name fell into the hat of a record label here in Nashville. And they called me and asked me if I could come to Nashville and meet with them. And always wanted to be in Nashville. I had never been here before. It was just...
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, it was like, oh, you know what? Music business is there. Yeah,
of course.
That's where I want to go.
Yeah.
So came here and I was hired on the spot.
Wow.
And probably like a week later, I was here in Nashville. And now it's been like 15 years of being in Nashville, being in the industry. And, there's the up and downs throughout being in Nashville in my career, but definitely a growing process.
It's crazy.
And the cool thing that I didn't even know until I think maybe a couple of years ago that somebody actually revealed to me, I reconnected with the guy who actually moved me to Nashville. And we were telling that story, and he actually says, he's like, well, I executed the move, but somebody gave me your name. And I was like, who? And he's like, Toby Mac.
Oh, of course.
I'm like, what? I never knew that.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, Toby Mac said, you need to hire this person. If you don't hire this person, you're a fool. And
it's crazy.
Yeah. And so that was like a shocker to me, but also was like honored at the same time because somebody like Toby, I was like, didn't know that until a couple of years ago.
That's pretty crazy.
So it's kept me humbled this whole time. And then I'm like, Toby moved me here.
It was Toby.
Yeah. I'm here because of Toby.
Yeah, so it's not me at all.
Yeah,
That's crazy, man. Wow.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess, was there something initially that made you fall in love with the music business? Like, outside of that internship, which was, is it Acquire the Fire?
Acquire the Fire.
Yeah, because we talked a little bit.
Yep.
But outside of that, was there something that was, like, drawing you? Because I heard a little bit of your parents' backstory. They were into...
Yeah, so my parents in Texas owned clubs. So I was around the club scene at a very young age, probably like, 8 years old in the back office, having to like play with my cars back there. Of course. And I'm hearing the music and hearing everything happening and, seeing all the bands that would come through and the buses pulling in and like all that stuff. I think all of that intrigued me. And so I think at the time growing up, it was always I wanted to be on the performer side, the artist side. But then it was just one day where I was just like, man, I just loved the business side of it and that aspect. And I love seeing people go from point A to point B and being like a part of that process. Yeah. That just struck me differently. And so I was like, no, I think I want to get into artist management.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect sense because getting to know you a little bit, I've seen like, of course, everyone knows you. It's like, everyone knows you somehow, but you have like weird connections with everyone. It's like, we did this thing, or we met here. Even with us, it's like, we met doing Salt Conference, and like, okay, now we've just been
hanging
connected ever since.
Right.
And so I just feel like you have that special gift. And so I want to try to figure out what that secret sauce is.
I want to know what that is.
Because you have this gift, and like, I don't know, some people don't consider it a gift. I definitely, it's for sure a gift.
Right.
But it's not one of those gifts that you look at and you're like, oh, you can play or you can sing. But I sometimes see like the gift you have as more valuable because you connect people in a way that other people can't. And so that's why I was like, since knowing you, I've heard countless stories. Countless stories. Even like right before we hit record, I'm hearing another story about how you like connected with someone and helped this person, or you went out of your way to get your friend donuts and you overnighted them. You overnighted a bunch of donuts for your friend's bachelor party. Like, normal people don't do that stuff. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's that secret sauce? And you said something really good there that I think would be good to talk about is you love seeing people go from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And like I get that sense about you. So what, why do you love that?
That's a good question. I think that in my parents were like that. My parents would give their shirt off their back and I would see them really give to our neighbors, to our family, to people around us. And I think that I carry that. And even my sisters in Texas, I think a lot, they do the same thing. I mean, one thing, like when I was traveling with Acquire the Fire, that's like 40 of us that do that. And I remember the bus pulling up to my mom's house and she literally cooked for all of us.
Wow.
And, with my parents being gone now, my sisters try to do the same thing. And I think it's something that we all do. It's like, we'll be the last to eat. We'll be, whatever. And I feel like that's just been something that's been instilled. And, I do it just because it's who I am and it's what I love, and I love people.
Yeah.
And, I don't think it's until somebody points it out that it's not a normal thing, I guess.
Well, we have to figure it out. We have to know what the magic sauce is behind it.
Yeah. I want to know too. So if you figure it out, let me know.
All right, we're going to figure it out. That's the goal of this podcast. We're going to figure it out because I think in one of our episodes previously, the grace of empowerment, and it was based off of, I don't know if you heard it, the message by John Bevere at our church.
Oh, yeah.
A few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. But he said something so great that God's grace on your life is actually the empowerment for you to do what he's called you to do.
Yeah.
And so I think God's grace on your life is to invest in people.
Absolutely.
And to bring them from different points or to connect them to other people.
Yeah.
Or just to leave them better than you found them.
Yeah.
And so I think, maybe where have you seen God's grace or those little things and be like, okay, this isn't me.
Well, I just remember something that was said, and it kind of strikes back to what, about a quote that I heard at one point. And it's basically like, the things that we have, the gifts that we have are God's gift to us. And so what we do with them and how we give back is our gift back to God. And, and I think that if I'm able to love people well, just as much as he loves me, to the things that I've been given, I think that through the things I've gone through in life, from going from nothing, like I said, my parents passed away. And so that was like a big wake-up call in my life of like, okay, you always have your parents to fall back on no matter what age you get. But when they were gone, I was young. I was like 27. So it was like, oh, I really need to get life together. Yeah. And, there was a lot of sleeping in my car to not having money. I have some emails that I've saved because I'm like, it's a reflection I can look back of like, telling my landlord at the time, oh, please don't deposit that check for rent because I don't have money in the bank. And it was like $250 a month of my rent at the time, and I didn't even have that. And so to take all the things that I've been given and worked hard for and everything like that, it's like all these things are things that the Lord has given me. So I can't hold on to them. So I have to share them. And I think part of that is even if I'm able to give my time or whatever, somebody took the time to invest in me, going to coffee, asking questions. Oh, I want to be an artist manager. I don't want anything from you, but I just want to learn from you. And people did that with me. So I'm like, however I can give back in that aspect, whether it's financially or my time or whatever, why not?
That's great. So. Do you find it hard investing in people that you may not get a return from?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm a Enneagram 3.
I don't know. What does that mean?
I mean, I actually read something today that somebody posted about Enneagram. It's like, it's kind of like listed out pet peeves in the workspace. And it's like when a meeting's taking too long or you're not getting something in return or like whatever. But it's also something that's like you have to work through because sometimes, in this life, you can also speak life into somebody or give somebody a word of encouragement or advice or whatever. You may never know what that does or the return of that. And so, I think I've gotten over that. But the sarcastic side of me was like, no,
immediately no.
Yeah,
because I'd imagine it because you touch so many people and are constantly managing or investing or promoting or whatever, and then because some people just do you wrong, Oh, do you feel the what's the word? Do you feel the emotion or the urge to cut people off sometimes or cancel people? Because I'd imagine like music business can be cutthroat.
It can be
very cutthroat, and you have to be like really bold. Yeah. And stand your ground and be very intentional about. Yeah. So we talked about canceling people in our last podcast.
I did see that. I did hear that.
But do you ever come up against that?
I do. And, one thing that I learned early on in the music business and, there's a family here that really took me under their wing, who I now really call my family. My mom, Carol, dad, Mark, and that whole family. And something that Pop said at the time to me was, this business is small, and you can be working for somebody at this point, and years down the road, because how tables turn so quickly in this business, it could be them that you're hiring.
Wow.
And I've seen that happen. And so because of that, he's like, never tarnish your name. Like, don't do that. And so in taking that advice from him, I've always wanted to step into this business, like, not do anything that would tarnish that, and really make a name that somebody respects and wants to work with me later on whatever project it could be. But I have experienced it from the other side, and, been on that side of where I have been the one canceled or cut. And it's not a pleasant feeling, So I hope that I've not done that. So if I have, I'm sorry. But I know that at one point I was like that, in the sense of not getting something in return. Like, well, then why am I investing in that person, or like whatever, But I think it was also on my side a growing process, and something that I had to learn, where I feel like now currently, not in a negative way, but I don't care what people think, or I'm not out to seek attention, or I'm not out to prove anything, I'm like, I'm just here to do what I'm called to do and serve people as I can.
Wow.
So
that's something I've noticed, is you're very good at you're very good at reading people.
Yeah, it comes with the job, I
think.
Yeah,
well, that's what I mean. You're just very good at it. What is it like working with so many different people in so many different capacities? But then not just working with them, but managing them, or being their air quotes boss, unquote. What is it like? What is that like, trying to read people and then trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way that I can lead this person, or invest in, or help them? Because you're very much about taking people from seeing the process in their lives, and then connecting people with
I'm an
opportunities
observer,
and stuff.
so I try to like really learn the person, and their likes and dislikes, and what they want to do. If it's an artist, what do they want to accomplish, or what's their vision for something, and really try to take that and move on. I mean, I think you have noticed that. I think I've already observed you from the last couple.
You have. Like last night we were at church, and you text me, you said, come to the broadcast room. And I walk in there, and you have a chai tea latte for me. I'm like, what like, who thinks of this stuff? I'm like, I need to start taking notes on how I can treat my friends, because even still, the gummy bears is like, we laughed about the gummy bears.
Yeah.
But you like spoiled me with gummy bears. I'm like,
it's how we connected.
Of course. It's like how yes. But that's something we could talk about this or not, but a story you told me that I thought was really impactful was the story of the tornado.
Oh, yeah.
And with Attaboy. Mm-hmm. And you could tell it because you lived it, but.
Yeah. So Attaboy's a cocktail place here in town, and really have connected with the bartenders there and the people. I would go quite often and got to know them in that sense, but then it was just the connection of just being there for the bartenders, from the tornado aspect to, those that don't know, there was a couple of bartenders that lost their life in the tornado. So trying to make myself available for the rest of the bartenders of what do they need in that moment. One of them during COVID had COVID, and just being there for him when having COVID. And again, I never looked for the attention in that or anything. I just now know this because they've like actually pointed out, here's why we take care of you, because you've taken care of us. Yeah. And I was just trying to be there for people. Yeah.
Well, how you treat people speaks to like how they treat you back. And I've noticed like everywhere we go, it's like, oh, JoeAngel, do you need this? Do you need this? Do you need this? Here's this for you. It's because you have like sown those seeds.
Yeah.
For years and months and prior, and to reap those benefits, because you just, I don't know.
And sometimes you don't ever know, and I have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it just all comes down, when we were trying to find out I still don't know what the secret sauce is, but I think just in like looking at my life and the things that I have walked, through, and the people that treated me a certain way through that process. And I've been through the dirt with people that treated me like dirt and canceled me. And that was both from a family aspect to also friendships and stuff like that in the past. And I'm like, man, I don't ever want to be that person that treats somebody like that. Wow. So I think that really going through that has really built me up for what I'm doing now. Yeah. And that is from both being confident to the way I treat people to any aspect in that sense. I think that what I have gone through in life has built me for today.
That's amazing. Well, I think that's reminds me of a revelation I had recently of, as we go through, you talked about going through hard things, and then people being there for you. And I think as we go through like hard stuff, we go through sacrifice, it actually makes us more like Jesus because of the sacrifice he went through for us. So we're married sort of in that because, I think that's one of the only ways that we can really be like him is through sacrifice because of what he did for us. Yeah. And so I think that's something, even looking at it from the outside in almost, because I don't know you super well, but we've got to know each other.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think looking from the outside in, I see that you, in a very unique way, take people to the throne because you implant seeds in them based out of the fact that, I went through a struggle and this person did this for me, so I'm going to do this for someone else. Yeah. So then that really like represents to me like, okay, that represents Christ to me. It represents like the kingdom of God because you, like you said, you just invest in people and you may not ever see a return. Right. But that's what the kingdom of God is. I'm gonna plant seeds. I'm gonna love this person. Yeah. I'm gonna do this for this person. I'm gonna
expect nothing in return.
Expect nothing in return, but I'm gonna do it because it's what I've been asked to do. It's the gift that's on my life. And I just think it's amazing because you see it in your everyday life. I mean, even we were at lunch and we were talking about a friend of yours that used to work for you. Mm-hmm. And he came to you and was like, I've never been as happy as I was when I was working for you. Yeah. How can I work for you again? Yeah. Like that's a testament to how you treat people. And I think it's amazing. Yeah. It really is. It's
and even with that
gift.
Person, like, I mean, the return that he gave in my life, of how he served me, and it was definitely a two-way thing. And, that is one that I'm like, will take to heart. Yeah. Because, when somebody's there for you as much as someone like this person, you also want to be there just as much. Yeah. And, when we were getting ready for the podcast and you asked me about my life first, what would I say? And I said, Matthew 19:26. I think I've said that for years. Yeah. It's kind of funny because I even try to be Mr. Christian, and like when I started the company, actually named it 1926 Entertainment. And it was, but then it was like later on, like somebody who I take advice from, advisors, was like, bro, you don't have to be so like Christian in everything that you do. He's like, nobody knows 1926 Entertainment, but everybody knows JoeAngel Sanchez. So you need to rebrand your whole company. Wow. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, so with Matthew 19:26, that with God all things are possible. It was really taking that as my life verse because of the things that I had walked through. Yeah. And like I mentioned, from sleeping in the back of my car to not having money to all these things. On top of, during that same time frame was when everything happened with family to parents passing. And it was just like, okay, I know that what I have gone through in life was never God. It was man. So I think there was such a foundation of me truly knowing who Jesus was that it really was like, okay, I can see the other side because the impossible is becoming possible because of him.
Wow. So that's great. What's been the hardest part of it all? Was it harder to sleep in your car and ask your landlord to hold the check, or Is there some element of it that's harder today, dealing with difficult people or scaling, or what's been the hardest part?
I think at that time, I think that would probably be the hardest part because, like I said, now the growth and stuff, I don't put up with people now.
Right.
I think that's kind of like been part of the learning process of and how to deal with people, and how to not necessarily cancel, but be like, this is not working out. So
set those boundaries.
Yeah, and I think that's on our own part, of being able to say no to things. So I would say probably back then was hard because it's so easy to get caught up in your situation and saying you're never going to come out of this.
Yeah.
And so I think during that time was hard because I'm like, what am I doing? That same year that I was like sleeping in my car, I remember going back home this is the first year that my mom had passed away. So now at this point, both my parents were gone. And it was the first Christmas. And it wasn't like just the first Christmas that was hard because they were both gone, but it was also everybody had their own families and we're doing things and all stuff, which is great. It's fine. But I remember being, I also got locked out of the house that I was staying at.
Oh, no.
And so I was sleeping in this rental car on Christmas night, cold.
Oh, no. Wow.
But, I just look back at even those little moments that I'm like, it really makes you be grateful for the things of today.
That's amazing.
So
what's been your favorite full circle moment? Like, oh, wow, this is a God moment on tour or just in...
I actually just had one. I'm not sure if I told you this, but
really?
Yeah. So we just wrapped up tour, 2.5 months of being on the road, and I text a friend of mine who we don't talk all the time, but we can easily just text each other. But we were in youth group, we were in high school, and we had drove from Lubbock, Texas to Dallas, Texas to see a show, and we were going to see Third Day. And we went to this show, and I remember we got in this venue, and we were sitting in the back and watching this concert. And on this tour, we just played that venue. And so to be back at this venue, that was a full circle moment because I'm standing on the stage and looking at the seats, and I'm like, man, I sat in that very back corner back there.
Wow.
Years ago, wishing and hoping that I could be doing this one day.
Wow.
So that was a big...
That's huge.
Full circle moment.
Look what God can do.
I know.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we sort of wrap this up, I've got really one other question.
Okay.
This podcast is about taking people to the throne.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We want to use our gifts, your gifts, my gifts.
Yeah.
Dan's gifts,
Absolutely.
who's sitting next to us
Dan's
monitoring
here.
audio. We want to use our gifts to take people to the throne.
Yeah.
And bring people into the presence of God. And so what, for you, what does that look like? What does going to the throne look like in your life?
Going to the throne, I think with what the main topic has been, obviously in our own time because I love music, I'm all about worship music and, really going to the throne that way. But then at the same time, I think you said it earlier in the podcast, is that going to the throne for me is how to take other people to the throne. Mm. And wow. If I can be used to do that, I think that's probably the greatest accomplishment I can do in life.
That is so good. Ooh, we can end it right there.
Yeah. That hit me just by saying that.
I know, I could feel it. It was good. But yeah, as we wrap this up, I'm so grateful for your friendship. So grateful
Likewise.
to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We're honored. And maybe it's not the last time. Hopefully I have on again.
I hope not. I really love this.
But yeah, just super grateful, and I'm excited to share life with you more and
Likewise.
See how you can just see the evidence of you taking people to the throne in your life. So yeah. I see it already, but I'm excited to see more of it. So
yeah,
it's good.
Same with this podcast and the growth of it and all the things you guys are doing. Thank you and Dan for having me.
Yeah,
I love it.
Of course, anytime. You're welcome anytime. So we just want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Just a reminder to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. rate and review on Apple Podcasts. It's weird that it's different. You rate and review, but then you subscribe. I don't know.
Like all the things.
Yes, all of it.
Yeah.
But just like and subscribe helps us out, gets more people listening to what we're doing. And yeah, thanks again for listening. And thank you for going to the throne with us. Peace out.
See ya.